Hey, what is up? Welcome to another Coffee with AJ live hangout. Just here to chat, hang out, getting some coffee ready and going for the day. It's Saturday. What are you guys up to? Probably, well, depending on people's schedules. You might be home, you might not be working on stuff at home or whatever. I got the day all to myself, which is kind of nice. It's nice once in a while because too much it gets kind of lonely. But once in a while, get a lot of stuff done. So that's what I plan on doing today. Getting a lot of stuff done. And yeah, pretty much. Getting a lot of stuff done like here in my studio. Tomorrow, I'll probably have to do some house stuff. But today, more music stuff. And might be working on one of my books that I want to finish soon. Kind of like as I'm working on like some of my bigger projects, I always I want to keep content releasing for you guys to enjoy, music and books because I love writing books. Um, and anyone who's watching, let me know if you can hear me okay, or if there are any issues. No one's ever said anything, so I imagine there aren't, but just wanted to put that out there. But I'm trying to, as I'm working on like a bigger project, kind of like every once in a while, I might take like a 1 or 2 week break to write a shorter book. Like, because I'm working on a bigger book project right now. It's gonna be like a series of books. Um, but I started one last week and I wanted to finish it by the beginning of next week. So that's what I plan to do as far as like writing goes. And then I'll have that up and available for you guys to get for a pretty cheap price for like the ebook version. I only have one audiobook available still. I need to start working on the Evil Wolf Chronicles audiobook. That needs done because I just love audiobooks. They're just like such a fun experience. Once I finish like the actual writing of the main big book I'm working on and the and release the album I'm working on, then I'll like go and try and do some of those books that need an audiobook. Because if I finish the one I'm working on now, which is more like kind of like it'll be shorter. It'll be kind of more like a fairy tale style book, I guess. Um, just a fun idea I was going to experiment with. Probably, I did, I don't know. I think it can be as long as I want it to be, you know? I'm the one writing the book, and I don't have a publisher telling me what to do. But I'm not gonna make it super long, and it might be like published as a series of short books or something, because like the first story isn't gonna be that long. But I'm setting it up to be like a kind of like a world where there can be a series of books. So if you want to know the basics of it, it's basically about this boy who's like a bard in training. If you don't know what a bard is, it's kind of like a medieval word for like musician. Maybe not medieval, but like bards were basically like musicians. So I'm sure most of you probably know that because like if you played Skyrim or things like that, like the bards are the people playing music in the taverns or whatever, or in the inns. So, but it's basically about this boy who's a bard, and then um, the basic thing is that he likes to adventure in this forest and play music as he's walking through the forest, and then he ends up breaking his lute, and then this mysterious lady, a fairy, offers to help him if he'll do something for her, and then he ends up going on a quest. And he uses his lute, which she fixes for him, and then sends him on his quest, and then like offers him other stuff that she's sending him on a quest for. That's kind of like the main idea I had. And I basically got as far in the book as to the point where she's about to send him on this quest. And they're basically going to be things that like help him become a better bard. So hopefully, I hope to get that finished. If not this week, then hopefully next week. I'm gonna just try and focus on that, taking a break from the other book I'm writing. Give something fun to listen to, or to read. I mean, but anyone joining in, feel free to leave a comment in the chat. Just hanging out. I got a question I was gonna answer, but you can feel free to leave a question if you want as well. Trying to decide on which one I was gonna do. Okay, so I have this question here. What's one piece of advice you'd give to aspiring metal musicians? Um, I'm still an aspiring metal musician, but I was thinking about this before a little bit. I think the main thing is you're just gonna have to realize that you want to get to where your music is doing well, to where you're like making an income. You gotta learn to be creative in how you like do that, I guess, and how you diversify yourself and like my main focus, I want to be able to just make music. That's all I want to do. I don't want to have to like create content and stuff like that, but I do because it helps me make a living doing it and it helps me to have more to put into my music creation and into building my influence and my reach, reaching more people. The thing is, um, when you're first starting out, one of the best things is if you got extra money you can invest, then and there are ways you could start growing an audience organically. You just gotta know how to do it right, depending on the platform you're gonna use, whether you can use Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. One piece of advice I give is to focus on one. Well, to just building one uh, social page. And while you're doing that, I would be building an email list. An easy way to do that is Bandcamp. If your music's on Bandcamp, you could put a song or something up for free and require that people, whenever they download the song, they give you their email address. Because whenever you do that, then you start building a list. Like Bandcamp will build a list for you. That's like one of the easiest ways to start getting a list. And you can send messages out to people who follow you on Bandcamp, but I don't know if you can to people who have necessarily downloaded your music. But you can use MailChimp. That's one that's free to send out email updates and stuff like that, or offers, like, hey, I have a CD sale or whatever going on, things like that. The important reason you do that is because that's what marketers say is on a social platform. Any influence you have is something you're renting, but if you're building an email list, that's something you own. Like if my focus is to build such a big email list that if I was ever banned from any social platform, I could still make a living just from my email list, just from creating new music and being like, hey guys, here's a new album or a new song or something like that, and making a sustainable living off of that. So it's just, mine is a long-term goal. It's really frustrating sometimes how long it can be to get there. Sometimes it's quicker for other people and slower for other people, but that's one big thing you need to be doing is, just focus on building your influence one place and building your email list as you're doing that. But even something that's more important that I should have mentioned first is like, and this is something you do, especially like, this is something that a lot of people neglect when they want to start a business or create a product or whatever. You got to think of your music as a product that people want. You know, you want to create something that people will want to buy, essentially. I mean, be creative and do the ideas you have by all means, but do some market research and be like, is this something people want to buy? Because that is going to help you out in the long run. I know I'm sounding very salesy and stuff like that, but in order to keep making music, you got to make a sustainable living. And I mean, obviously, if you're just doing it as a side thing or whatever, that's fine too. But for me, it's not. It's something I want to do full time, and it's it's just something you got to start seeing as a business. Otherwise, it's never going to be any more than that. If you treat it as a hobby, that's all it's ever going to be. You treat it as a business, and it's going to become that eventually. You know. Um, but the main piece of advice I would give is it would probably be that first. You know, is to make sure you're just like, if you really want to get somewhere with it and reach a lot of people, I mean, that's my goal. It's not just to make a sustainable living and everything. Like, making a sustainable living and a successful business is like, it's something I have to have in order to reach more people with my music, which is what my ultimate goal is, to reach more people, for more people to hear my music, be inspired by it, and to, be inspired to pursue whatever their dreams are. That's what I want my music to do for people. I want to like motivate them, fuel you, and make you want to, face the demons that are keeping you from living the life that you should be living, becoming the person you should be. I want my music to motivate you to do that, to give you fuel for the fire. In order to do that, and in order to reach more people, I have to make a sustainable living. So, think of ways you can do that. Do market research. I know this sounds like boring stuff. Anybody joining in live, I'm answering a question I had about what a piece of advice I would give to aspiring metal musicians or just musicians in general. And the path I've always wanted to go is like one of like that I can do everything myself. I I don't want to have to get permission from some gatekeepers. Like, just for example, like, if you're not advertising, if you're not able to invest in building your audience in some places, like, it's, yeah, there are ways you can build your influence, and depending on how well you've done your research and everything with the music you're creating, um, it may not take a while. um, Facebook might be the easiest one to really get some momentum quickly. That's how I did it. I think my Facebook is up to like 43 some thousand people. That's because I've also invested in, ads and stuff like that. But that's probably the easiest one to get momentum on, because you do things Facebook likes and they will put your content in front of people. Especially like live streaming. That's one thing you could do. Just start live streaming, and even if you don't have any songs recorded, just start live streaming your music, playing your music or jamming out or whatever, and just start building relationships with people. You might have a few friends who would enjoy what you're doing, so invite them to check it out, and maybe they like it, they invite their friends. You can get some momentum that way. Um, find whatever ways you can to organically grow what you're doing. But if you really want to kickstart things, um, and it takes a lot of know-how, and it's a pretty big learning curve learning online advertising stuff. Um, but once you learn it, you don't have to get permission from gatekeepers. I'm talking about like platforms like, say, pages that talk about different bands in your genre or whatever, or groups or YouTube channels or whatever. You're like, hey, can you share my music? And they're like, no, I don't really like it. Sorry. You know, like it's so disappointing trying to get permission from people. Like, why do I have to get permission from people? You know, why can't I just like, you know, so build my music and reach my audience because I know they're out there. That's what advertising does. But like I said, it's a pretty big learning curve. And but when you do that, you can put your music right in front of the people you want it in front of. And like I said, before you start anything, doing the market research of the people you want to reach, the people who you know will like your music, that's going to serve you in the long run. And if there aren't any people that maybe sign, well, maybe you could try something a little bit different that would have more of an audience. So, and I know there are people like who want to create new things and stuff like that. Um, like I said, it depends on what your goal is. A lot of times, like I said, and this is something I've read in a lot of different marketing books. The number one thing that businesses do wrong is they create a product that they think is cool, that they think, people will like without doing any market research, and then it just fails. So like that's like the number one principle for any business is create something people will want to buy. The only way you know that is by doing the research. So, but just knowing all this before you start is going to serve you in the long run. If you've already started, that's fine too, you know? And it's never too late to change direction if you feel the need in order for you to keep creating. It's totally fine. So, but don't get so it's just a hard balance, because you want to create what you want to create, but you also got to find ways to create things that people are going to enjoy, or that just has bigger influence. Like you don't want to sell out. That's not what I'm saying. Create the things you want to create, and make sure there's an audience for it. I'm sure there is, like literally everything. There's an audience for everything. I'm pretty much. But I was just kind of using the business analogy, like create a product people want to sell, or people want to buy. People will want to buy. That is like the goal. It's like if you're doing something interesting, something that is like unique. And I know that this is very hard. There's a lot of music out there. There's a whole sea of music out there. And you just want to find a way to differentiate yourself, whether it can be a lot of different things. It can be your sound, it can be how you show up, it can be whatever. But that is like one of the other things. This is how, we artists do this is you got to differentiate yourself because there is a massive sea of artists out there, who are all doing something very similar to what we're doing. So how you gotta ask the question, how can I make this different? You know, how can I make this stand out just a little bit? How can I like even the odds a little bit, It's another marketing strategy. It's called the blue ocean strategy. Like where rather than the red ocean where all the sharks are eating, find a blue ocean that is, there's not a lot going on in a sense, And it's also like another analogy is like be the big fish in a small pond rather than trying to be, fish in an ocean of other fish. So it's just this idea of finding a way to differentiate yourself. Like one way I do that is I do like really heavy, like I do symphonic metal, but I do it heavy and hard. You know what I mean? Like a lot of symphonic metal you hear isn't like it's female fronted, nothing wrong with that. Um, and it's just not that heavy or hard. It's more melodic. What I'm doing is like it's basically symphonic deathcore, and there are obviously bands doing that, right? So another differentiator is that I have that symphonic aspect of what symphonic metal bands are usually talking about in their lyrics, which is fantasy stuff. So that's how I differentiate myself a little bit. Like, because not a lot of deathcore bands are really doing fantasy style lyrics. It's more like it's it's it can be different. It can be like very dark stuff. It can be just I don't know. It can be alien stuff, whatever, you know. It can be Halo. But you know, there's just a lot of different aspects you can change to make it more unique to you. Like, and not only that, you know, that I'm talking about fantasy stuff, but I'm also writing my own original fantasy stories, and I'm making my own books. You know, that's another way that I'm differentiating myself a little bit. So there are a lot of things, you know, but just a lot of things I would tell aspiring musicians, a lot of things I would tell my younger self before I started out on this. Um, but you know, you kind of you learn as you go too. That is okay. Just keep going. That's what my advice would be. Keep going and do not stop. Figure out the problems, you know. You got to just find a way to make it work. You know, do your research, learn and grow. Invest in yourself and your knowledge of how you're going to grow this thing. You got to, like I said, if you want it to be something successful and something that makes an income for you, it can be a side income or whatever. If you want it to become like a serious, full-fledged like operation you're doing full time, you need to treat it as a business and make an income doing it. So, if you're going to get there, you got to learn some things that most musicians don't want to learn and they just want to leave up to record labels. You know, you got to learn marketing and stuff like that. Like record labels are another other gatekeepers I never want to ask permission from, you know? Like I want to ask your permission to in order to create more music, you know? And essentially like record labels like give you know have a contract with musicians that they pay them so much to create things and then they take all the royalties and stuff like that. There are different contracts and stuff, but another gatekeeper. And you want to do it without you want to do it completely solo like me, like I have people who help me with different things, you know, but I've had to learn to do a lot of different things. And if you're not someone who wants to learn to do those things, maybe like that path is better for you, but that would be my advice. It's like you just gotta learn how to learn and you gotta learn how to solve problems, you know. That's a key thing in running a business is solving problems. So you gotta learn how to learn. You know, you want to create music, and that has to be you know that to be the focus. If you want to get to a point where it is like that, where that is kind of like your main thing, you just create music and you can leave things up to other people. You could get to a point where you could afford to pay people, you know, to work for you rather than you're basically working for a label or whatever. Like that path to me was just never what I wanted to do. Like I don't want someone over my shoulder telling me what to do. This is the whole point of running my own business, stuff like that. So I don't have to work for anybody who's going to be over my shoulder telling me what to do, and someone I have to go to and ask permission to do to live my life. You know, I hate the fact that like most of my life doing full-time jobs, I've had to ask permission to spend time with my family, or I've had to ask permission to do what I want to do with my life. You know, I'm just the kind of person I don't want to have to ask permission for those things. So I'm going to build something I can do myself. You know, I don't want someone to just like, you know, hold a gun to my head. That's how I see it. And if I don't do what they want me to do, boom, you know, not necessarily I die, but like I'm fired. Then I have no income for my family. I can't provide all those things. Like it's stupid to me. Like you sacrifice a lot of security when you do something like this. But to me, like living my whole life, you know, that way, depending on someone else like that, it's just not for me. So you want a successful business as an artist, you just gotta learn to suck it up and learn how to learn. That would be my main piece of advice is learn how to learn. because you have to learn a lot of things. And it gets annoying, and you just want to make music, but it pays off. I still get to make music every week, you know. I have to put a lot of time into learning some things still, but it pays off. The payoff is so much better. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of unpaid hours, but it eventually gets to a point where you're getting paid while you're sleeping, and that's pretty epic. Makes, it kind of pays you back for all those unpaid hours very quickly. Wendy, you're making money while you're sleeping. So, if anyone's watching this and they have more questions, let me know. But just have like for any artists watching, have that long road in mind. Don't take any shortcuts, any bullcrap. Take the long, bloody, hellish road. Sounds like it sucks, and it does. But it's also awesome when you get through it. But it's also something that kind of never stops. That's okay. But yeah, I'll get off my soapbox now. Anybody else have any questions? Or just want to chat? I was really getting into that one. That's the only question I had today. Anybody watching, feel free to jump in chat, ask a question, just hanging out, drinking some coffee, getting ready to make some metal. I had a new song that'll be coming out next week. That'll be called, crap, what did I call it? Totally spacing out now. Oh yeah, it's called Devil Desecrator. It's gonna be epic. You want to hear it now? Patreon members have full access to the song right now for literally $1.97 a month. There are higher up tiers that have exclusive music. You want to check that out? But that's a great way to support me and what I'm doing. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/fellowship of fire from heaven. It's a fellowship. One cool thing that Patreon has now is they have like a chat thing to where we can have you can be chatting with other members or chatting with me. So lots of fun. That's something new they added. There's also some free stuff there, so you can also follow me there, and you don't have to pay or anything, and you'll see some of the free stuff I post there. That's or not free, like public, public to those who haven't subscribed. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this live stream. I'll probably be doing one tonight where I'm jamming out, so watch out for that one as well. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you later. Stay metal.